Welcome to another Season Change Dev Diary. I'm Sam, the community coordinator for F1 Clash, and today we're talking the 2023 season, the 2024 season change, as well as more to come later in the year. 2023 has been an exciting time with players unlocking legendary drivers like Michael Schumacher. We had big events during the season and tons of feedback from players, and that's shaping up the new season. And today I've got Andres and Gabe here with me to talk about 2023. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Andres, the game designer on F1 Clash, and it's a pleasure to be here for the second time.
Hi, I'm Gabriel, client engineer on F1 Clash, and it's great to be here again.
We're taking a look back at the 2023 season. Players could say it had its ups and downs. We introduced a lot of new features. We made a number of changes between the 2022 and the 2023 season. First of which was we removed the fuel requirement and we added power units. Can you talk about it? What we saw with those changes?
Yeah, it's been a super exciting and ambitious year. I can't even, think of all the features that we introduced. The fuel management replaced the power unit. All the stats basically were revamped. The power-up, legendary drivers, collection milestones. This has been a truly exciting journey. And there's a lot to learn from this. I think the approach was super ambitious. Reworking every single stat in the game really affected the gameplay in general. And I believe that what was the ultimate goal in 2023, we can finally achieve its improved version or its complete form, final form, if you want to put it this way, in 2024. We're really happy that, we learned all this from the last year, and we can put all this learning into, I think, an even better version of F1 Clash for the next year. So about fuel management replaced by power units, I think it was a really good change for the game. It is just following the sport really and being authentic to real F1. And it wasn't the only stat that we changed. Race start was introduced. The qualifying formula was changed. Generally, every single behavior formula of the cars on the track were changed. And the ultimate goal in 2023 and in 2024 is that we can create unique track identities where, Monaco is different to Monza, and you need to find the perfect setup and loadout for both tracks, and those are wildly different, as it is in real F1 and in real life. And about the learnings with this work and this journey with the stats, I think you can keep a bit more inside game.
Oh, yeah. So last year we made the foundational work to change all the stats and make sure that we revamped the game balance. We had an issue where speed was very overpowered compared to the other stats. And after our work rebalancing things up, we ended up with another stat being overpowered, which is cornering. So we did some changes this year to make sure that now every stat is important in the game.
So we'll briefly look back at the 2023 season, which is quickly coming to a close. Now on to season change and everything it's bringing to the game. What exciting features do we have to bring to players?
Probably the most exciting and the real game changer is track stats. So we were talking about looking back at the 2023 foundational work with revamping stats, that creating unique track identities was the goal. We believe that track stats will really reach this goal, and we can create unique experiences and unique challenges connected to each of the tracks. So track stats features, every single track in the game will feature 2 strong stats. These strong stats will have a lot higher impact on performance than the rest of the stats. One of the stats will come from the driver's side and the other will come from the component side. This way, the players always will need to think about both sides and optimize both their car and their driver setup or driver loadout to meet the requirements, to meet the profile of the track to achieve maximum performance. We believe that it's a super important part of the game and real F1 that you need to optimize your loadout and your strategy to the unique requirements of the track that you're racing on. And we're quite happy that this long journey that started in 2023 finally can reach its destination in 2024.
And in regards to the track stats, how will players see this between series and GP events?
So the main difference is that in duels, you select from, or your track is selected from a pool of tracks. You don't know what specific track will come from the pool. It's randomized, right? So that's why we created series with a certain theme. One strong stat that sort of unify all of the tracks in the pool. I'll give you an example. For example, Series 2 is going to be tire trials, and it will feature tire management as the unifying strong stat. All 4 tracks in Series 2 will feature tire management as one of the strong stats. This is going to be on the driver's side. And on the component side, it's still going to be, unknown, randomized. So players can prepare definitely on the driver's side and optimize the loadout, but there's still some sort of uncertainty, unknown elements to the game that keeps it exciting for the whole series. For GPs, the experience is a bit different because players will be aware of the upcoming track and also the requirements, the strong stats of the track. So they can optimize perfectly both the cars and their drivers to meet the requirements of the challenge. And it's important to know that there's going to be boosts in this equation. Assigned or attached to every single track, there is a perfect boost that improves the 2 strong stats or track stats. And that will give a massive advantage to the player who finds the perfect boost, matching the track stats and using them.
So it's going to be really critical for players to tailor their loadouts specifically for these strong stats on every track.
That would be the goal, yes. To achieve a game and gameplay experience where you can't use the same 2 drivers and the same components throughout the whole game. You need to think ahead, know the tracks, and optimize your loadouts for the specific challenge.
So a common question from players in regards to the 2024 season is the return of the Chinese GP. Will that be returning to F1 Clash?
Yes, the Shanghai International Circuit will be back. And I think it's going to be a really good example how we designed the track stats. We try to be authentic and follow the real requirements and the real profile of these tracks. On the Shanghai circuit, it features a super high speed, and also it's one of the highest overtaking track of them all. So that's specifically why we chose speed and overtaking as the strong stats on the Shanghai International Circuit.
So just a little teaser, what's to come ahead?
Yes. And I think following the real profile of the tracks really helps the players, figure it out ahead what is going to be the strong stats on each track.
So track stats is going to make quite a significant change to gameplay. Do we have any other gameplay changes coming?
This season, we're going to remove reliability from the game, and that's going to make the game much more authentic to the real-life F1 experience. And it will also make the race much faster and the gameplay much more engaging, because players don't have to be looking at the UI anymore for that specific stat in there. And it will also simplify the pit stops. so that players can just select the driver to pit, and that will be it. It will be much more simpler.
So we're removing reliability. Is there anything replacing it?
We are going to replace reliability with qualifying on the components this time, and drivers will also continue to have qualifying. So now qualifying will be a mixture between what the components have and what the drivers have, and that's going to be the final qualifying value of your car.
I mean, in real life qualifying, it takes more than just the driver to qualify. It takes the car as well. So to me, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So a big question from players already, and they're probably already diving into the comments for this video, is if we're changing the stats, what does that mean for boosts? Are we making any changes there?
We try to be cautious with boosts because that's one of the commodities going through the seasons, and so we don't want to change them too much. But in this specific case, when one of the stats they boost is removed from the game, we must adjust these boosts so they don't lose their value and they still be relevant in the game. I think there's in total 14 or 15 boosts featuring reliability. Those boosts will feature another stat instead of reliability. So out of the 3, they keep 2, and they will feature a new one. And this way we can make sure that regardless of the rebalance boost remain relevant and powerful.
And with removing reliability, does that mean cars don't break down anymore?
No, player cars won't break down anymore, only the AI cars. So AI cars will continue to break down. They have a chance of breaking down in each race, but players don't have to care about breaking down anymore.
So with some gameplay changes taking place as a common piece of feedback from players regarding cars bunching, do we have any changes there?
Yeah, we improved the car's behavior in the race this season, and we reduced bunch a lot. So players should see much less bunching, especially at the start of the race. And on problematic corners that used to have some bunching on the past season, this season should be much better.
Last item for this part of the video is a big part from players, and that's regarding GP groupings. I know we've been doing some work on this. Is there anything that we can share with players?
Yes, so GPs are by far the most competitive element or event of the game. So we want to maintain fairness, especially here. And part of the issue last year was that the way we were grouping people was exploitable by people who wanted to. And so in the next year, we want to create a system that cannot be manipulated by the players and rewards fairly all the participators, and creates groups, buckets of players that are created fairly and are in line with the real power and experience of each player.
With the new GP groupings, can you explain how player progression works?
I wouldn't call it progression. It's quite a hidden system in the background, so players won't really see any feedback about their GP grouping points or how the system works really. But the philosophy behind it is that the more rewards you take out of GPs, if you are doing really well, you will face opponents who did equally well previously. So the whole system is based on your historical GP performance. And that's the most important, that players can't really intentionally manipulate this or trick the system. It's quite simple. If you do well in your group and in your power level, you will be paired or grouped together with players who did similarly well. And so you will always meet a challenging group and challenging opponents.
Hopefully a lot fairer and as well as challenging for players to come then.
Yeah, we hope that too.
So what's to come day one of the 2024 F1 Clash season, and we've got even more planned for the year. Further details of that to come. So thanks very much for sharing with players, and joining myself and Andres at a look at what's to come this season, we've got Jim.
Awesome. Yeah, here for the first time. I'm Jim, creative director on F1 Clash. Here to make sure we're making the best season we can for 2024.
And we've looked at the 2024 season from the day one, and now we're looking for further into the year. What can players possibly look forward to? Atras?
Club tournaments are the next major updates on the roadmap ahead. We plan to release them shortly after the season change. The club feature didn't get major updates since its original release, and they felt that the dedicated club members might want some exciting new event. And that's exactly what club tournament is, a new event format. You and your club members need to collect as much reputation as possible in 48 hours. The format is quite similar to the sprint race event, but you need to work together as a club. You are bucketed together with 19 other clubs into a 20-club leaderboard. And the goal is to become the first by collecting the most amount of reputation, really. The twist is that there's another leaderboard for your club's member, and we want to reward those club members who contributed the most to the collective effort and collected the highest amount of reputation. Those who contribute the most get an extra reward. So essentially there's two leaderboards. One is for clubs against clubs, and the second is an in-house competition for your own club members.
Awesome. And players can look forward to potentially two sets of rewards, one for clubs versus clubs, and then internally within their own.
Yeah, exactly. And we plan to run these club tournaments on Thursdays and Fridays. We felt that this is a perfect time, really, because most players, or the most dedicated players, already complete their qualifying round for the GP events on Wednesdays, and then there's sort of more free time for club play on a Thursday and Friday.
Awesome. And so players are looking forward to ultimately multiple events across the entire week to take part in.
That would be the plan, yes, to have something enjoyable and entertaining on every single day of the week.
Great. And what else do we have to look forward to in the season?
Yeah, so the season brings a lot. We're going to be looking at a few different key areas to grow some of the features that we haven't really improved upon over the last few years. So one of those is GP events. GP events have been a little bit stagnant for the last few years. We want to make sure that they're as entertaining, interesting, and as dynamic as possible. So each time you come to a new GP event, we want them to feel fresh. We want them to be interesting gameplay and also play with the structure a little bit more. So as we talked about, usually those qualifying events happening on a Thursday and a Friday and then go through into the different stages. What if that was a bit different? What if there were different game rules? What if there were different ways to play? So those are the things we're going to be playing around with throughout the season to bring a really interesting GP event to the rest of the season. And also make sure that when you come into a GP event for a certain race or a certain theme, that it feels more like that event. So that players, when they come into it, they get immersed more in what that GP event is, especially if you've been watching the qualifying or the race weekend. You can feel a part of that big event like at Silverstone, Monza, Spa, and so on. So that's going to be one of the key goals that we have. And we're going to roll that out, hopefully as smaller updates throughout the season. So seeing those gradual improvements to GP events as we continue throughout the year.
And with other changes coming in the new season, players are going to need to strategize a lot differently with the GP events as well, especially with things like the tailored track stats.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully the bedrock that we've built for the season change helps improve the gameplay in GP events themselves, adds more strategy, gives us the tools to create more interesting challenges for players to take on, and for them to prove themselves against the rest of the community to become really who is the best at building the right team, the right driver setup, the right component setup, and so on. So yeah, hopefully it should be a much more interesting season when it comes to GP events. And that's something hopefully we'll see in the next 6 to 8 months especially. So really looking forward to that. Beyond that, one of the key areas that we haven't spent as much time on as well is the early game experience. Now, for most players, that's long gone. They know they know how the game plays, they know what they're doing, but not everyone does. And with the awesome work that the Formula One season does, bringing in new players each week, We want to make sure that more of them are coming through, joining your clubs, joining the community, and really enjoying what F1 Clash has to offer. So we're going to be making some of those improvements, refreshing some of the gameplay and early experience to make sure that it's the best that we can deliver. We talked about obviously making improvements to GP events, more challenges, more unique ways to play, and that's not just for GP events. We also want to bring that to series content, and that really starts with the biggest, most important thing later in the year, which would be the Champions Series.
Yeah, the Champions Series would be the ultimate endgame goal and endgame content for F1 Clash. We realized that going through the series and playing duels over and over again can be a bit repetitive. We plan to break this repetitiveness with the Grand Slam rotation, but we also want to provide something even more interesting than just playing duels. And that would be the Champions Series. That's for the most dedicated players who played through all of the series, completed all of them, and collected all the possible flags, really. For them, we want to provide a new gameplay experience and a new challenge that can keep them excited for the rest of the series and the season, no matter what.
So we've really got a lot of plans to keep players busy once they've reached the end game ultimately.
Yes, that would be the goal, to make the whole season enjoyable and entertaining for the whole year.
Awesome. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet is the collection milestones and legendary drivers, which players have already been asking a lot of questions about. What can they expect in the new season?
Yeah, legendary drivers and collection milestones. Obviously, we brought those to the game in November of last year. Really exciting addition to the game. Gave the chance for players to collect the likes of Michael Schumacher, Andretti, Coulthard. Really fascinating and great experience for people, and especially the collection milestones gives extra rewards for just doing what you usually do. But for the new season, we wanted to make sure that not only we were making that journey more interesting through collection milestones, but also the legendary drivers. For most players, legendary drivers have been out of touch. We've seen the data, we reflected upon how they've performed, and we want to make sure that we do them justice. And that means reflecting upon how we implemented them and what we can do for them in the new season. And because of that, that's why we're taking the decision not to have them from day zero or day one. So that means it gives us a little bit more time to bring more legendary drivers to the game. And there are going to be more legendary drivers in the game. Can't say who they are right now, but there's at least 6 additions and possibly more coming later in the year of some of the greatest drivers in F1 history. And that's going to be incredibly exciting. And because of that, we wanted to bring a little bit more to them. We wanted to make sure that they influence the game a little bit more. Not to take anything away from, obviously, 2024's official F1 drivers, but that they had more meaning, that there was more depth to them, and you had a little bit more control who you could use. And that means having potentially those drivers impact different areas of the game, having different, more unique gameplay associated with them, and also the ability to use those drivers in different periods of the game. Obviously, if you want to take Coulthard through and use him later on, can't really do that right now. So that's something we're exploring. I'm not going to talk too much about the details of what that is, but we're really excited, and that's something we'll hopefully be bringing in the summer a little bit earlier than we did last year, with a collection of new features, new ways to play, new ones to collect, and a new way to interact with the collection milestones. So it should be really exciting.
And definitely no hints as to who the legendary drivers are going to be.
No. I wish we could say, but we want to keep that bottled up and make sure that it's as exciting as possible for when that day comes. And I know that internally here at Hutch, we are insanely excited for the drivers that we're bringing this year, on top of the already awesome collection of drivers that we have. So yeah, more drivers means more fun.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
As someone who works with the community, there is a big subject that regularly comes up for me that I hear from players and even during my gameplay itself, and that is matchmaking. Now, there's a big question, what's happening with matchmaking? Are we changing matchmaking? Can you give us any insights into that?
Yeah, it's a big topic, and it's also a big challenge. We want to make sure that
the experience that everyone has is as fair as possible, that the challenge you're up against matches the power that you have as a player. And we've been behind the scenes, we've been doing tests in different regions with different changes to matchmaking to see what effects they have, because when we roll out changes to matchmaking, we want to make sure it has a really positive impact, that it doesn't make anything worse, and that you feel the difference. So we're taking our time with that, which I know can be super frustrating because those issues are there and apparent right now. But when we make those changes, we want to make sure that they have a real positive impact. And that flows through into how we match people together in GP bucketing as well, and making changes there so that across the game, there's a really strong level of fairness and that you feel like you've got the right challenge ahead of you. So there won't be changes immediately. As I say, we've been testing those things on different parts of the community. We want to make sure that they're right when we roll them out. And that'll be something that's coming this year as well.
And of course, there's a balance to matchmaking as well. It can be too difficult, but if it's narrowed down too far, it can also be too easy, and then there's no challenge left to F1 Clash as well.
Exactly. And with no challenge, the experience gets dry, it gets boring. So it's why the balance of that is so challenging and why we want to make sure we get it right, because any change isn't always good change. And knowing the challenge ahead of you right now can be a positive thing, but we want to make sure that when those set of changes do come, when those improvements come, that they have a wholly positive impact.
So hopefully that answers the question on matchmaking. Hopefully players are reassured that yes, we are looking at it, and hopefully some good changes to come. So lots of new things to come in 2024, not just from day one, but later on in the season as well. So hopefully players are excited. And thank you, Andras. Thank you, Jim, for joining.
Pleasure.
And that is our cover of the 2024 F1 Clash season. Stick around and keep your eye out for updates. So that's it from us in preparation for the 2024 season of F1 Clash. Be sure to join our Discord to join in on the conversation. There'll be a further blog post with more details in regards to season change. And make sure to follow us on socials and tune in soon.